Pascal Siakam is one of the most vital parts of the Raptors alongside Kawhi that have helped them make the NBA Finals. Siakam, now at 25 years old, has taken a huge jump in his third year in the NBA, averaging almost 17 points per game and 7 rebounds per game. Now, I know this isn't the most insane stat line you've ever heard, but you have to remember Siakam fell all the way to pick 27 of the first round in the 2016 NBA Draft. But before we talk about why a now top power forward in the league fell so late into the first round, we're first going to talk about the guys that were taken before him. The first power forward taken off the board was actually Marquise Chris. Drafted out of Washington with the 8th overall pick by the Sacramento Kings, Chris was a former ESPN top 100 prospect in high school. After a good season at Washington, he declared for the NBA draft at only 19 years old. Coming into the draft, people were wowed by his athleticism, essentially painting him to be a 2K demigod. For being 6'10", he could move with extreme speed and play way above the rim. Surprisingly, he even drew some comparisons to Amari Stoudemire. Although his career has been far from great and Siakam's stats have been consistently going up each year, that's not been the case for Chris at all. His best numbers were his rookie season and they've only been going down since then. Now, I'm not saying that he might not develop into something considering he's only 21 years old, but it's not looking great for Marquise Chris. But it's sure to say if they could turn back time, they would have much rather have had Pascal Siakam at this pick. The second power forward taken off the board was Thon Maker at pick 10 by the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, all of us know that it's pretty safe to say that the Thon Maker experience was one that failed horribly. Coming out of high school, Maker was a 5-star recruit, standing at 7'1". Throughout the draft process, there were many concerns if Maker was actually 19. Many believed that he was actually somewhere between 21 and 23 years old, but most people knew that he was a fairly raw prospect that could have a lot of potential because of his size. In Maker's time with the Bucks, he was far from great, and this year he was even traded to the Detroit Pistons, where he did average his career highs, but they're still fairly unimpressive at 5.5 points per game and 3.7 rebounds per game. This is another one just like Chris that I think in retrospect they would much rather have had Pascal Siakam than have drafted Thon Maker. The third power forward off the board was Yeboah Saleh, drafted 16th overall by the Boston Celtics. Yeboah Saleh has been no more than a bench warmer for the Celtics, averaging only about 2 points per game and 1 rebound per game on the season, with his biggest strengths coming into the draft being his 7'1" wingspan and his strength. He really hasn't been able to translate those well into the NBA. Now at 23 years old, it's looking like Yeboah Saleh won't be playing in the NBA too much longer, and this is once again another one I would say it's safe to say the Celtics would have rather had Spicy P than take Yeboah Saleh if they had the chance to do it all over again. Number 4 was Henry Ellenson. Drafted 18th overall by the Detroit Pistons, Ellenson played his college ball at Marquette, where he nearly averaged a double-double. After this being his first season at Marquette, he declared for the NBA draft. Ellenson's stats throughout his time with the Pistons are fairly comparable to Thon Maker's best season. He was averaging about 6 points per game and 3.5 rebounds per game. So obviously, this was another power forward from this draft class that really didn't pan out in the NBA. On February 9th of this year, Henry Ellenson was officially cut from the Detroit Pistons and went on to sign a 10-day contract with the New York Knicks. So once again, this is another pick I'm sure the Pistons wish they could have gotten back, and if they had the choice, they would have much rather have had Spicy P. Lastly, the final power forward taken over Siakam was only 2 picks before he was. That is Brice Johnson. Brice Johnson was selected with the 25th overall pick by the Los Angeles Clippers. Coming out of high school, Johnson was a consensus 4-star recruit, in which he then committed to the University of North Carolina. At UNC, Johnson stayed all 4 seasons, where he played some great basketball even breaking a few of the school's records. Coming into the draft, one of his biggest strengths to the scouts was his athleticism, and he even pulled in some comparisons to Taj Gibson. Although in the NBA, he hasn't gotten much playing time or looked great in that playing time. So once again, I'm sure the Clippers would have rather had Pascal Siakam than have had Brice Johnson in retrospect. But as far as people who are center/power forwards, there were obviously more, but I made it just power forwards. And for the center/power forwards, one was Dragon Bender, who obviously has just been terrible in the NBA, and the other was Sabonis at pick 11, who has carved out a very solid role with the Pacers. Now, for one of the biggest questions here, why did Siakam fall all the way down to pick 27? Now, there were a lot of concerns about Siakam's numbers, saying he wasn't playing against any real competition at New Mexico State. Also, another huge knock on Siakam was that he was already 22 at the time of the draft, unlike some of the other prospects who were only 19. They also gave questions about how much upside he really had in him. But besides that, it was really just concerns about his strength and his unusual jump shot style that allowed this gem to fly under the radar at pick 26. Now, we'll never know if Siakam would have become this dominant four that he is today if he was drafted by any of these other teams, but I can say one thing. Some of these teams fell into the trap of thinking they were getting themselves a big man who could do it all, handle the ball, shoot, and just dominate, as if they were planning on getting the next Giannis Antetokounmpo. But they really ended up with Marquise Chris and Thon Maker, who have just been absolutely terrible in the NBA. But that's pretty much all for this video. If you liked the video, please like, comment, and sub. And tell me who I should do next. Thank you guys for watching.